it is.
That was the
I've had
second
it.
reading on the streets.
But aren't you happy I don't have insurance?
I call to order the April 2017 meeting of the Lafayette Common Council. Please stand for our pledge to our nation's flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk please conduct a roll call?
Heidi,
Here.
Clinker, Reynolds,
Here.
Campbell.
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Allersmeyer, Williamson.
Here.
Downing.
Here.
Nargi.
Okay.
Quorum present.
You've all received the March minutes. Are there any corrections to those minutes? Okay, do we have a motion?
I move that they be approved as communicated.
Okay. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay, same signal? Okay. Presentation and disposal of claims.
There are none.
Presentation of petitions and communications.
There are none.
Thank you.
Reports of the city offices on file in the city clerk's office.
Fire Department Annual Report 2016, Fleet Maintenance Monthly February, Water Pollution Control Department Monthly February, Waterworks Department Monthly February, and the Annual Report for 2016, Police Department Monthly February.
And all those reports are on file in the clerk's office and can be viewed during regular business hours. Okay, ordinance for second reading, ordinance 2017-12.
An ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Lafayette, Indiana, approving and authorizing a payment in lieu of taxes pilot agreement with the Glasswater Creek of Lafayette LLC for Glasswater Creek of Lafayette.
Do I have a motion?
Madam President, I move that we hear and approve ordinance 2017-12 on second reading.
Okay, and second. Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the council, before you have the ordinance with Glasswater Creek for payment in lieu of taxes. I'm not going to go through the whole project because we went through this many, many times because of the different pieces of this process. But as you know, this is a low to moderate income assisted living facility that's a tax credit project. But with that in mind, they still wanted to work with us to help contribute to our property tax base, and so we negotiated this payment in lieu of taxes, which at the time was equivalent to a police officer's salary. We're not really expecting a lot of calls at this facility, so we think this is a very fair amount, and then our research is, quite frankly, quite a bit more than what most cities have been requiring, but they were happy to do it. So we'd appreciate your support on this, and right after this, we have one more step, and we've just about got this project ready to get off the ground.
Okay, I think,
Can you answer any questions?
any questions?
Just one clarification. The payment is an annual payment?
Yes.
Oh, that's all I need to know.
Yep.
Any other questions from the council? Any questions from anyone in the audience? Okay, will the clerk conduct a roll call vote on ordinance 2017-12?
Heidi,
Aye.
Reynolds,
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Williamson.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 6-0.
Okay, next, ordinance 2017-13.
An ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Lafayette, Indiana, authorizing the issuance of economic development revenue bonds in one or more series in aggregate principal amount not to exceed $18,600,000 and approving other actions in respect thereto.
Okay, Mr. Heidi
I move to hear ordinance number 2017-13.
and Mr. Reynolds.
Second.
Okay. Do we need to?
Let the city attorney,
Okay.
my time to
Your turn? Okay,
Absolutely.
Great.
Yes, this second ordinance is a bond ordinance where the city will serve as an issuer, a conduit issuer to allow Glasswater to obtain up to $18,600,000 in tax-exempt bonds. In this situation, the city is just the issuer as a conduit. It's not a obligation of the city. It's not a debt of the city. We are just serving as a conduit facilitator. And if there are more specific questions, bond counsel is here that can answer any specific questions you may have.
Okay, any questions from council members? Any questions from anybody in the audience? Okay, will the clerk conduct a roll call vote for ordinance 2017-13?
Heidi,
Aye.
Reynolds.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Williamson.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 6-0.
Okay, ordinances for first reading. Ordinance 2017-11.
An ordinance to amend the Lafayette Municipal Code to add new sections 8.01.370, preservation of brick streets.
Mr. Campbell?
I got a question first. Do you want us, should this appear as failing? I would like to amend it in its entirety.
Okay, we need to put it on the floor now, and then we'll amend it and vote on the amendment.
I move that it be placed on the floor for
Okay, and need a
consideration.
second, Mr. Brown?
Second.
Okay. Somebody like to speak to this? Anybody?
If you want to hold off a bit, because we got to look at the amended one.
Okay. Okay, so you want to speak from the ordinance committee, the meeting there?
Now, we're going to vote this down, or we're just going to?
We're just going to amend this.
Yeah, we need to take a vote to put it on the floor.
Yeah,
A motion to amend.
I think that's true.
Okay, so now we need a motion to amend, okay? Who would like,
I make a motion to amend.
Do
okay?
you want to
and-
amend it, Mayor, or do you want to defeat this right now? And
No, I think we've had a motion and a second, put it on the floor. So
Floor.
we need a
Now we're-
vote to actually put it on the floor, and then you can vote to amend it in its entirety.
Okay.
So we need a
Right.
vote to
So
put
we,
it
well,
on?
we've already moved to hear it, so we need a motion to amend the ordinance in entirety and replace it with the amended ordinance that's been presented.
So we
Okay,
have
I
a.
will make that motion to amend it in its
amend-
entirety.
Okay, and.
I'll second.
Second it. Okay, now we can speak to
Good.
what happened at the ordinance committee.
It's taken almost as long to get this on the floor. And it's a matter of months. But I would like to thank a number of people who worked very hard on this particular ordinance. Primarily, the committee, which you are a member of, and Mr. Brown is a member of. The mayor for his help in this, and the city attorney for countless changes, as well as Mrs. Lesney, who also helped. I think I saw her here. There she is waving. A great deal of help in this. We have a man by the name of Jones, Ken Jones, brought this to our attention, I guess, 8 months ago, if that sounds right or wrong. And it was to preserve the brick streets. He has made a great deal of research in that. The research pointed at the cost of the street to build a new street is rather high. But the length of time that that street would last is also longer than a blacktop street would last. That it could either be due to the fact that people slow down on we're going to call them cobblestones, that's my fault. The cars would slow down on a cobblestone street, so consequently there'd probably be less traffic, but that doesn't affect the fact that the cobblestone streets initially cost more. And it was up to the committee to rule on this. We had people who spoke in favor of the cobblestones. We had people who were against them because of slippery conditions and things like that. But this is a result of some long studies and a number of changes by the city attorneys. And we have come up with a ordinance we think is acceptable to all involved. So I would encourage everyone's support of this particular ordinance because it will be the answer that we're looking for, hopefully. Now, come on and talk, please.
Okay.
Mr. Jones is in Hawaii. That's how much
Poor thing.
pressure was on this
Yeah.
thing.
So you know.
He had to leave the continental states to go to.
Yes. I'm Peter Uccioli. I live in Highland Park at 845 Shawnee Avenue. I'm a neighbor and a very good friend of Ken Jones, and I know a number of you have worked very hard and cooperatively with him. And as Ronna just said, he can't be here tonight because he's away with his family. Before he left, he prepared a statement, and he asked me if I would come down and read it to the council. So here's the statement. The ordinance you are considering this evening opens with a very important statement. I quote, "Whereas brick streets can help define the character of a neighborhood and existing exposed streets should be preserved to the greatest extent feasible." Why should the city endeavor to protect and preserve these streets? This is about much more than saving some old streets. I want to remind the council about the following benefits of our streets. Over the life cycle of a street, brick streets cost less than asphalt and concrete streets. They may cost more to install, but no other streets in Lafayette are going to last 150 years. You are being good stewards of taxpayer money with this ordinance. Brick streets help to define the character of historic neighborhoods. Highland Park, South 12th Street, and Centennial neighborhoods are enhanced by these streets. Historic brick streets improve property values. The streets are in and of themselves historic, representing the prosperity and progress of our city, from frontier settlement to urban center of higher learning and commerce. Water runoff from brick streets is less. In fact, our newest modern brick street absorbed the water deluge from a fire truck with no runoff. As we spend millions on sanitary sewer projects to separate rain runoff, why wouldn't we want to preserve the streets that already helped to alleviate the problem? Finally, studies show that brick streets calm traffic. They lower driving speeds and thus reduce accidents. Over the last 8 months, I have had the pleasure to work with many of you on this issue. I thank you for your counsel and your support. Tonight, I urge you to take the next step in preserving Lafayette's brick streets and vote in favor of the amended ordinance.
Thank you,
Thank you.
and thank Mr. Jones.
Any other comments from the audience? Okay. Any other questions from the council? Okay. Will the clerk conduct a roll call vote for ordinance 2017-11?
Heidi?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Amended ordinance passes 6-0.
Okay. Next one, ordinance 2017-14.
An ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Tippecanoe County, Uzo, Amendment Number 89.
Okay, I think,
We want to
Jerry, are
try
you
the
going to
floor?
speak to this?
We can put it on the
Go
floor
ahead
first
and,
then-
Oh,
I think
yes,
she
we need to
wanted
put
to
it on the
talk
floor,
on it.
okay. A motion,
So moved.
so moved?
Second.
Second, okay, now we can.
Okay, very good. Ordinance 2017-14 amends NUZO to allow fences higher than 42 inches within the setback area for corner lots or lots with multiple frontages, provided that vision setbacks are still in compliance. The corner lots and lots with multiple frontages, this presented kind of a problem with limiting the heights of the fence. APC staff recommended approval of this amendment, and it did pass the APC 16-0.
Anything else?
No, I think the only other thing that we brought up was that was a West Lafayette's request for this.
Yes.
That was the first.
Yes, West
not in
Lafayette
Lafayette.
requested this.
That was West
Mhm.
Lafayette.
Genesis of this, and even though I had some concern, I still have some concerns about it. It's okay, I think.
Okay. Any questions or concerns from anybody in the audience? Okay, will the clerk conduct a roll call vote for ordinance 2017-14?
Heidi?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 6-0.
Okay, ordinance 2017-15.
An ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance Tippecanoe County, Indiana, Uzo, Amendment Number 90.
Do we have a motion from the floor?
I move that we hear and pass ordinance number 2017-15.
And second?
Okay. You going to
Sure,
speak to this one too?
absolutely.
Okay.
This amendment to the NUZO ordinance only applies in the incorporated area of Dayton. This was a request from Dayton. It still has to be passed by all the participating agencies in NUZO. This will legitimize certain small farm-like properties located in Dayton. Again, APC staff recommended approval, and it did pass APC 16-0, but again, this would only apply in Dayton.
Okay, any questions from the council?
Let me repeat that again. No horses in Lafayette.
Right, this is Dayton. Okay, any questions or concerns from anyone in the audience? Okay, will the clerk conduct a roll call vote for 2017-15?
Heidi?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 6-0.
Okay, ordinance 2017-16.
An ordinance of the Lafayette Common Council approving the City of Lafayette's participation in the State of Indiana Public Employees Deferred Compensation Plan.
Okay, Mr. Campbell?
Madam President, I move for passage of ordinance 2017-16.
I'd second.
Second. Okay, Mr. Mayor?
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the council, before you is an ordinance, as we discussed in caucus, that would open up another opportunity to our employees as they look at retirement and as they look at the opportunity to invest their money towards that retirement. We are currently in a 457 plan with Nationwide. This would not replace that for those employees that feel that Nationwide is meeting their needs. They're more than welcome to leave their funds, their investments in that program. But if they look at this, what's called the START program with the state of Indiana, they look at the fee structure, they look at the investment opportunities, then that would be a second option for them. As you know, we work very hard here when we talk about wellness. Cindy and her group does a lot when we talk about physical wellness, but we also talk about mental health wellness, planning for retirement, managing your finances, all of those things that we think help our employees have a healthy life, and of course, planning for retirement is one of those. And so we think this option is just another opportunity for them to do that. Kim Meyer is here, our HR director, but also Tim Clary, who is our deputy controller. Tim was, worked for the State Board of Accounts, and he's very familiar with this program and actually participated in it himself. So we got to spend some time with him to see how it works, and we feel that for some folks, this is probably going to actually be a better option for them when you look at the fee structure and some of that. So we would appreciate your support so we can offer our employees another opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the council?
Mayor, I'm fast approaching the retirement age. And I was wondering, will we be eligible for that program?
You would, but if I had your money, I'd go ahead and retire now, too.
Okay, good. Well, good. I feel better already.
All right.
Okay, all right. Any other questions from the council? Anyone from anybody in the audience? Okay, will the clerk conduct a roll call vote for 2017-16?
Heidi?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 6-0.
Okay, we have one resolution for this evening, Resolution 2017-06.
A resolution approving a deduction for tax abatement in an economic revitalization area, Heartland Automotive, personal property tax abatement.
Mr. Brown?
Madam President, I move that we hear and approve Resolution 2017-06.
Mrs. Williamson?
Second.
Okay, great.
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the council, before you have a resolution for Heartland Automotive, as you know, they are a Tier 1 supplier to SIA. They do the injection molding portion of the process as it pertains to the dashboard, the side panels of the doors, and some other pieces within the vehicle, and they're a very important piece of that SIA supply chain. Over the last several years, they've continued to expand their facility here in Lafayette, which is located off Veterans Memorial Parkway, out there in our state-certified shovel-ready industrial park that has grown very well over the last few years. I do want to take just a moment to thank this council. You have been very supportive as we've helped our local businesses grow and expand. You understand the global climate that we work in, the 21st century logistics, on-time inventory, all of those things that we do here to try to help create that business climate that allows our businesses to grow and succeed and to attract new businesses to the community. So this is an abatement on equipment that they need to add. As you know, SIA continues to grow. The number of production levels that they have continue to grow, and we're very blessed with the investments that they've made over the last couple of years, and this new equipment will help Heartland Automotive continue to meet those demands. And as we move into next year, you know, the additional vehicle will be built at SIA, the third row SUV type vehicle. So we're very excited about this expansion of new equipment, and we would appreciate your support of your vote of confidence, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any question from members of the council? Any questions from anybody in the audience? Okay, will the clerk conduct a roll call vote on Resolution 2017-06?
Heidi?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Resolution passes 6-0.
Okay, any reports of standing committees? None? Reports of special committees? Reports by the mayor? Okay. Miscellaneous and new business. We have a compliance statement of benefits for the tax abatement for Stoddard Development LCC. So we'll need a motion on the floor to hear and approve that.
So
Mrs.
moved.
Williamson? Okay. Mr. Downey?
Second.
Okay.
Good evening, Dennis Carson, Economic Development Director for the city. Before you have the tax abatement compliance for Stoddard Development. If you remember last year, you approved a tax abatement for this project, and they completed their project, and now they have made their filings with the county to start their abatement process. So with that, there's a compliance that needs to be approved, and we have a 30-day window to do that. So this was reviewed by the Redevelopment Commission, who unanimously approved a recommendation to the City Council for approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any question from council members? Any questions from anyone in the audience? Okay, will the clerk conduct a roll call vote on the compliance statement for benefits for tax abatement for Stoddard Development LCC?
Heidi?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Okay.
Compliance approved.
Reports of councilmen. Any other reports?
I don't have a report. I was wondering, is there anything that the council can do to speed up, if this is the right word, the inspection and/or, what would you call it, when you go in and say, this has got to be done? And I assume that the council for the, you have something to say about this. When we go in, when a property is not being maintained properly, is there anything we can do to speed up that process? Is there any stumbling blocks or something that?
As far as, Mayor, did you want to speak? I saw you getting up. Okay.
We're all thinking about the same thing. I mean, you're talking about, so somebody calls in from the neighborhood and there's a property that the grass is too high or the paint's peeling or some of those, the processes go through the Ordinance Violation Bureau.
Yes, sir.
I mean, this council passed an ordinance that's in accordance with state law, and we operated under those circumstances where we give people a certain amount of time and notice to make those corrections on their own before we fine them, and we've set that window up. To keep in mind that some people might be on vacation out of town, they might not get their mail for a week, depending on how the mail service is, and so we've adjusted that, I think, once since you've all been on the council, and actually tightened that down a little bit. I'm not sure we can tighten that down anymore, and still with it takes 3 or 4 days for somebody to get something in the mail. Because right now we only give them 2 weeks to respond to us at least.
Yeah, without pulling the ordinance, I can't tell with certainty.
Or
but
10 days,
Yeah,
so-
I think it's 10 days.
Yeah, 10 days.
I have heard that the gentleman who does the inspections, who does a very good job, he can't go on the property without a policeman being there. Is this true?
Well, anyone can, he might want a policeman there if he feels like he might be threatened, but anyone can go up on a property and speak to someone at that property. Now, if it is private property and they're asked them to leave, they would have to leave, and we'd have to go through a court or process that we do with the courts to go back on the property or send certain notifications, like we do with the unsafe structure ordinance and the committee that we use through the Lafayette Hearing Authority. So we've got those processes in place, but yes, do we have some limitations on what we can do on private property without going through certain legal steps, certain periods of notification? Some of it requires legal notice in the newspaper that we have to do depending on what we're doing with that property, but we do all those in accordance with what the state law allows us to do.
Would this gentleman be deputized? I understand he's familiar with firearms and things of that sort.
Well, no, that's probably not at this point a step we're going to take. I mean, I do feel that the way that we operate the Ordinance Violation Bureau, the things we're doing with the unsafe structure ordinance that we have through the Lafayette Hearing Authority, what Jackie is doing now through the abandoned property law that changed and the abandoned properties that we're dealing with, and we've already cleaned some of those up, and what we're doing now with BOCA, where we're enforcing the maintenance portion of the BOCA code through the engineer's office. So we're attacking those properties, I think, from every possible legal angle that they can be addressed from, and think we're doing it within the time frame that gets them done as quickly as the law will allow, and not so at a point where people would be able to, I think, to come back to this council and say, you're not being reasonable, giving us an opportunity to make these corrections before we're fined by our local government. So I think the process works probably within the constraints and what the law says as well as it can. Was there properties we'd certainly like to get done quicker sometimes? Absolutely. But sometimes there are extenuating circumstances that Cecil and other members of our staff uncover that it's probably a good thing we took just a little bit more time so we can work through those appropriately, and we found some things that most people might not know about. So appreciate the consideration, but I'm not
You
sure.
mentioned 3 areas, and the area that I'm particularly interested in is despicable properties that are just tremendous eyesores. 3 of them come to mind immediately, and
Well, if you send those to me, they may already be on the list. Jackie, maybe, you have to remember an abandoned property, actually, to follow all the state law, they have to have not paid their taxes for so long.
this is not abandoned. These people live there.
Okay. Well, then we have to go through the unsafe structure, if it means unsafe, or we have to use the maintenance portion of the Boca Code.
Eyesore property.
Well, somebody told me a long time ago, there's not really a lot of laws against ugly. But we do our best to address, and that's what the maintenance portion, as this council probably remembers in the prior budget, you approved as part of our crime fighting initiatives that we would hire an additional inspector to help. And we've done that, and you might have even saw the articles in the paper. They're in the Romick Ellsworth neighborhood right now. They've got several of those buildings for people to actually paint them that needed painted, put in windows and screens back on and some things like that. And so Mark Gick, our building commissioner, and his staff is out doing them, but it's a rather large community, and so it takes a little time. But I do believe from the time when we first started, if you go back to 2005, when we first started working on putting the unsafe structure hearing authority together to now, the number of complaints that I personally get from neighborhoods and people in the community about those properties have dramatically diminished. We've been through hundreds of those properties, and maybe we should put out some kind of report to the council that would give you a little bit better idea of how many of those properties we've actually addressed over the last several years.
I agree with all of that, but the 3 that I'm interested in are not in the Romick.
Well, why don't you send them to us? Because, I mean, we can go anywhere. We started with one specific neighborhood, and we send out 5 or 6 people at a time, 5 or 6 inspectors, because literally, we walk the streets, and we go to each home, and we take a look. We go up and down the street. So if you'd send those to me, I'd be happy to look at them and see if there are a list. If they're not, we can send somebody out to look at those and see what category they might fall into.
Don't tell my wife about that ugly stuff, will you, please?
Okay, I won't, I promise.
Mayor?
Yes.
If I could, what is the situation on getting these houses that are with a bank? Out there in Potter Hollow, there's been one 3 years. And all the information I get, it's with the bank. It's with the bank. The bank sells it over here, sells it over there. And the soffits are falling down, the gutter's falling down. It's very poor looking. The neighbors are all concerned. But what is the procedure on that house?
Well, whether it's owned by a bank or owned by a private individual, if they're paying their taxes and they don't meet the abandoned property, then we can't do anything, but we can enforce the maintenance piece of that now, and we do have the staff to do it. So if you have one of those, regardless of whether it's owned by a bank or an individual, we can still send notice of Boca Code violations to a bank. Now, they're out in California, New York City. It may take quite a while to get some type of return. But again, I think the number of those has dramatically decreased over the last couple of years, but certainly we can do our best on that.
Thank you.
I'm not going to make a promise I can't keep.
I
If somehow
understand.
we send them a letter to a bank in New York City and we get a response back just like that.
Won't happen.
It doesn't always happen. So Jackie, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I think you covered it well. And with regard to the last one, that is, those types of situations are with the abandoned property law that we're looking at, that we're trying to focus on. But the problem with those occur sometimes is the banks continue, as long as the property taxes are continuing to be paid, it limits what we can do.
State law says we can't declare it
Right.
abandoned if the property taxes have been paid.
Right.
So we don't have free reign. Our hands are somewhat tied to by state law.
I'd just like to say that as much as we possibly can, we need to assure the citizens that we are moving on these things as quickly as we possibly can. But the thing that's holding us back is this pesky due process thing. We have to go through the process. And sometimes it takes a long time.
Well, this country was founded a lot on private property rights, and so there are a lot of laws and there are a lot of court decisions that dictate what we can and can't do. Right. Thank you.
Okay.
We couldn't get Mr. Trump to sign an executive order.
Madam President, could I indulge you just for a second, please, though?
Absolutely.
I apologize. I would like to say, under the mayor's report, that many of you saw, I'm sure earlier in the week, that Mike Koning passed away. And Mike Koning was a tremendous community volunteer doing our graffiti abatement program. For those of you that were on the council at the time we passed that ordinance, you will remember that there was a lot of concern in the community about people getting fined or elderly people that wouldn't be able to take care of it quickly enough and meet that window that we wanted to get it removed by. And boy, in stepped Mike Koning, and just literally overnight those concerns went away. Mike took it upon himself to eradicate the graffiti. Fact, the ordinance gives people a certain amount of time, and Mike got it gone before most people even knew they had it on the back of their fence. Sometimes he was that good. And so I just ask that you keep Mike's family in your thoughts and prayers as they go through this difficult adjustment period of Mike being gone, and just remember him as the tremendous community volunteer that he was, because without him, that program would have not started off as smooth as it did, and certainly would have never been as effective as it did. I never could get him to take any money. He'd get all the supplies himself, his own truck, his own gasoline. Even when we had money, the people donated for the program, he didn't want to take it. So just really, really a special guy, and he'll be sorely missed.
Would it be appropriate, Mayor, for this council to send his family some sort of a
I think it would.
comment by the clerk?
I think that'd be nice.
That he is in our prayers.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Now it's time for public comment. If anyone from the audience would like to speak, please come to the podium. Give your name, address. You are limited to 3 minutes, and please be respectful and courteous of everyone.
Does that young man want to say something? No?
Put them on the spot. Okay. Any comment from the public? Okay, Mr. Campbell.
I move we adjourn.
A second.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I only forgot once this time.
Yeah.
Put it on the floor.
Yeah, no, it was great. You did great. It looks good. So, yeah.
Oh, I think I put it on.
It was pretty quick.
Yeah. You said 7:15.
I did.